Good morning. Still morning here in the West Coast. So hope everybody is doing well. Some light subject here. So it's a much happier day. Got a little bit of a bounce back. Want to share the screen. This is Mornings with Michael for information and educational purposes only. It's your responsibility to do your own due diligence. Anything we say is our personal opinion. So let us share the S&P heat map. It is a little hotter today than it was yesterday. We added a little bit on Microsoft on a pullback when it was in negative territory. Apple continues to decline. We added we shorted Apple at 190, shorted some calls on a position we already hold. So Nvidia is bouncing back. The semiconductors are bouncing back today. Meta, a really big bounce back today. Healthcare, Lilly continues up. Oil, energy got a little bit of a pullback today. We'll show a couple of issues that we added. And we got a big bounce on MicroStrategy. We're going to take a look in the education section at some of the Bitcoin miners. And let's just share the screen. Here's a picture of an annuity, fixed annuity. We think you can invest in indexed annuities. The indexes through this. The great thing about this index annuity is you never lose money. Goes up, does not come down, whereas you see bobbing weaving from the index investing. And so this annuity beats index investing by about 5% per year. How do they do that? They often give a bonus on signing. This is always changing with the interest rates changing. So if you want more information on this, feel free to reach out to me, send me a comment on my different sections where you see this video. Or on Facebook, we have a Facebook page and we have the YouTube page. So Mornings with Michael is ready to move on to our next step. Let's take a look at indexes here. We're looking at shift for payments, kind of bobs and weave. We're waiting to see if it can break out. And so shift for payments, they manage the payments at majority of the hotels around the country. If you stay at a hotel, you're probably using shift for payments. And if you go to a restaurant, many of the restaurants are using Toast to manage their payments. So that's a little story there. On to our dollar index, a little bit of a pullback today. Take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum, a big gap up today, up 7.72%. Amazing. And let's take a look at Bitcoin. Has a big move as well. They gapped up there on the low for the day. They're still up 4%. Take a look at gold. Gold is still kind of suffering. I think gold may start to lose out if the cryptocurrencies continue their strong surge. Silver has bounced. We'll see if it can fill that gap. It's filled a portion of it. Our copper miner in Canada is bouncing as well. Southern Copper got a nice big bounce as well. FCX bouncing as well. Rio, slight bounce. UK-based company with mining interests in South America. Vale got a bounce, but it's on its low. And BHP, mainly in Australia, got a nice bounce as well, up to 200-day moving average. Let's take a look at our yields on treasury bonds. Got a big sell-off on the yields anyway. So when the yields go down, that means the price of the bonds are going up. So it's pulling back to 4.25 or 26 if you count the 7 there. And got a little stretch from that big move yesterday. So you would kind of think there might be a little bit of a pullback. And our 20-year treasury yield is pulling back as well, almost 1%, 0.85%, pulling back to close to its 200-day moving average. Let's look at the volatility index pulls back quite a bit, pulls back to 15. It tried to move higher after a strong pullback in the morning. First, let's take a look at IWM. They had a big pullback yesterday, but the pullback in the yields helps them out today. Dow Jones got a little bit of a bounce, 0.13. S&P 500 got a little bit of a bounce. Let's take a look at the equal weight in the S&P 500, a little bit more, up 0.7%. It's really healthy if this starts to broaden out. Look at the NASDAQ. NASDAQ is up slightly. And the equal weight NASDAQ, yes, they're trying to fill the gap there, up 0.61%. 80% of gaps fill and then return to the trend. So we'll just have to keep our eyes out on that and see if that happens. So let's bring up our news of the day. Had some earnings before the bell. Not really going to look at those. Going to go straight to the news. And so MedTech, Digital Health, Life and Sciences, Diagnostic Tools Conference is happening this week in Utah. World news, British inflation unexpectedly held steady at 4% in January, defying forecasts of a rise to 4.2%. Consumer price inflation, which surged as high as 11.1% in October 2022, is expected to fall further in the coming months, paving the way for the Bank of England to start cutting borrowing rates from their 16-year high. So let's go to Airbnb in the sector news. To buy back up to $6 billion of Class A common stock, Q4 revenues $2.22 billion versus estimate of 2.16. And people were looking for a little bit more, but the stock is trying to bounce back. Denny's, which is closing their facility in Hegenberger in Oakland here. Big fall down on the shares. Q4 adjusted EPS 14 cents versus 17 cents. Nobody likes a big miss like that. Instacart, recent IPO, Q4 adjusted EBITDA 641 million versus estimate of 172.4 million. Their stock is just up, is actually pulling back 5% today. Negative 73% earnings. They reported 44 cents versus $1.66 on the same quarter year ago. 21% earnings surprise on the negative. And my screen has closed down and we're right back at it. So LYFT has lifted my portfolio. Thank you so much. A big, it's up close to 33% today. Q4 adjusted EBITDA 66.6 million versus 248.3 million loss last year on the same quarter. So as you can see, earnings are up 124%, 111% earnings surprise. People like to buy earnings surprises, as you can see. MGM Resorts, Q4 adjusted EPS $1.06 versus 71 cents. It's still selling off, even though it's 169% earnings increase from the previous quarter, nearly a 50% earnings surprise, but I guess people were looking for more. And we got top brand Callaway Golf. Got a nice move there. Quarter four, even though they had a loss of 30 cents versus estimated loss of 33 cents. I guess the guidance was good. Full year 1%. Same venue sales growth and positive free cash flow. On to Zillow Group was top mover this morning. It moved up and it's currently close to its low. Earnings negative 5%. Revenue rose 9% year over year to $474 million versus estimate of $451.5 million. On to energy, industrial, and materials. Allison Transmission, huge winner today. Quarter four EPS $1.91 versus $1.43. That's a big beat. And that their earnings is up 26%. And that was nearly a 20% earnings surprise. BP said it has agreed to form a joint venture with Abu Dhabi National Oil Company to explore and develop gas assets in Egypt. BP said that it will contribute its interest in 3 Egyptian development assets. So their stock is off just slightly, 0.79%. Comstock Resources. Quarter four EPS 10 cents versus estimate of 13 cents. Their stock is off 0.68%. EQT, quarter four adjusted EPS 48 cents versus 52 cents. Their stock continues to drop. I believe their exploration, natural gas prices have really shrunk. Generac, our backup generator company, quarter four adjusted EPS $2.07 versus $2.08. It has pulled back. Earnings increased 16%, 0.95% earnings surprise. Take a look. This stock has been a long time winner, but it is pulling back now. And we'll just have to see if it can hit bottom. Their screen closing is beginning to get on my nerves a little bit. GXO Logistics. This was a part of XPO Logistics. They had 2 spinoffs. This is one of the spinoffs. Quarter four adjusted EPS 70 cents versus 69 cents. You can look at XPO since they had the spinoff. Back here, their stock is just continuing to move up and it gapped up on their earnings. And it continues to do well. As we often say on gap ups, as long as it holds the bottom of the gap up, it's good to hold. And this is doing well. Take a look at RXO. This is the other spinoff. Looks a little better than GXO. Kratos Defense. Quarter four adjusted EPS 12 cents versus 9 cents. And this is cheered 50% earnings increase. Waste Connections, quarter four EPS to $1.11 versus $1.08. And they cheer this. This is up 25% year over year quarter, up 2.7% earnings surprise. AIG, quarter four adjusted EPS $1.79 versus $1.64. Initially cheered and now it's pulling back on the 29% earnings increase. $1.79 versus $1.64. Robinhood took off last night. We'll see if it continues today, and it does. Quarter four revenue $471 million versus estimate $457 million. transaction-based revenue, 200 million versus 191.2 million. And some of their transactions that have really been helping is buying of crypto. Upstart, Q4 adjusted EPS, 11-cent loss versus estimate of 14-cent loss. And this did not get it done. You could see this coming with the other company that is a competitor of theirs. Don't exactly see it there, but it happened last week. Try to put it out of my mind because I lost a little money investing it. So here we go. Invitation Homes up slightly. Q4 results in line with FFO 0.45 cents and revenue 7.7% year over year to 624 million. So that was that. On to healthcare. Biogen downgraded to equal weight from overweight at Wells Fargo. It gapped down and it's selling down on the earnings, which were at negative 27%, down close to 2%. DaVita, Q4 adjusted EPS $1.87 versus estimate of $1.59, and we got a nice gap up above the $120 figure, even though it's getting near to its low. Earnings up 68% year over year, quarter up nearly 15%. Excuse me. Get back to where we started from here. Invitation Homes, Biogen, DaVita. And we got Immunome. We had a pretty strong move. Continues up, 10 million share spot secondary priced at $20. This is pretty smart to have a secondary once your stock has a big move to finance future production, even though it may not satisfy people that are being diluted. Laramar Therapeutics. It didn't hurt their stock at all when they're announcing a 17.2 million share secondary offering. It's up 36.5% today. Must be some stock that or some therapeutic that they got good report on. Q4 adjusted EPS on Quidel, $1.17 versus 205, and that's not going to sit well with anybody. Down about 31%. On to technology, media, and telecom. Kami Technologies, Q4 EPS $1.69 versus $1.60. Not a big enough beat in technology. It is falling 8.5% on a 23% earnings increase, which was a 67% earnings surprise. Problem is, people are kind of expecting this. The valuation just kind of grows, and when they don't hit that valuation target, then the stock falls immeasurably. So we got Blackline, Q4 adjusted EPS 69 cents versus estimate 55 cents. Tried to move a little higher and then sold off. They're off 0.69%. Corsair Gaming, believe this was an IPO in 2020. Q4 adjusted EPS 22 cents versus 25 cents. Interesting. They're moving higher on this news. 10% increase, and it was a 9% earnings surprise in the negative. Integris, Q4 adjusted EPS 65 cents versus 58 cents. We got a gap up, and it's near the low of their gap, up 5.13%. We got GoDaddy. Quarter four revenues 1.1 billion versus estimate of 1.1 billion. And the stock falls on that news 3.5%, even though the earnings are up 999%, $7.85 versus 60 cents a year ago quarter. This is a 633% earnings surprise. I guess it was baked into the goods. Resideo Technologies, quarter four adjusted EPS 48 cents versus 44 cents. And look at Resideo climb. It's on the high for the day, up 22% on 92% earnings increase, 32% earnings surprise, and I guess you could say this was not expected. And finally, SS&C Technologies, quarter four adjusted EPS $1.26 versus $1.24 on 9% earnings increase, and their stock rises 7%, up 4% for the day. So let's take a look at what's really moving the markets today. Look at this amazing super microcomputer. I bought this way back at 70 and I sold way too soon. So where she stops, nobody knows. Who are their customers? Google, Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft. The list goes on and on. They take all those NVIDIA chips and put them together in computers and data centers. And relative strength is 99, and look how stretched that is from the 50-day moving average. I could say that there is a pullback coming, but I said that way back here. So I just don't know, but a lot of people want to own this company. ARM Holdings. On the pullback yesterday, I down around here, I guess it was 121, 122. I added a 125, 130 spread option for March. We'll just see if that can continue moving up. Datadog is up today. I may have sold those options a little too soon, gotten impatient, but it is up 3% today. JFrog, we have that in one of our other accounts we manage, and it is up 3.3%. Parsons. Wow, look at that. Big gap up here on earnings on 44% and up another 35% on this earnings and another gap up. Is this a serial gapper? We will have to wait and see. Shopify was down strong yesterday, trying to buy back a little bit. They had a great earnings report, but people were expecting a lot more. Uber is jumping up 12.25%, I guess, with the LYFT results. General Electric is gapping up and it's near its high. Pretty good volume over here. It's what you want to see. So when a stock sells off, what are you looking for? You're looking for low volume on the selling, high volume when it comes out with the earnings. And if it comes out with great earnings, the tendency is to continue to rise. And you can see this with General Electric. So take a look at what's up 5% for the day. There's 31 items. We're not going to look at them all. We thought LSN Transmission earlier, holding off at 70. ARM Holdings is number 2. Look at all this blue buying volume over here. That's what you want to see. Their earnings were up 32%. Aspen manufactures high performance aerogel insulation used primarily in, I guess, I'll have to guess where it's used primarily. It's up 16% today. Aventur sells tools, equipment, chemicals to perform clinical studies, up about 9%. Bright Horizons, workplace childcare, big gap up. Beamer Imaging. We showed this the other day, had a big rise up here, pulled back, and it just keeps going up every day. It's up near 11% today. Cap Gemini ADR, French provider of IT systems, big gap up today and near its high. Chef's Warehouse is got a pretty good earnings reaction, I guess you could say, even though the earnings were down 20%, and it just continues moving up, and they like the earnings even more today. Charles River. This is where professional money manager, you can see where professional money managers are moving their money, because this isn't your mom and pop buying big stocks. Move, big gap up. DaVita, we saw in the news. Let's just kind of like skip ahead, see if anything sticks out to us here. Phonar, big gap up. Most of these others we've already taken a look at. SiteOne, Landscape Supply. This is what I'm talking about. Low volume on the selling, and then volume jumps. It gets good news. It's not really breaking out here, but it's holding in there. This is one that you should have sold on close below the gap up. Sometimes they come back, sometimes they just don't come back. Tower Semiconductor in the semiconductor area, a big move up today. Look at all that volume. Up 12.47%. Upwork. Earnings are later today. This is kind of positive. I'm not sure if it'll break out or not, but this is a lot of times this will tell you if they're going to have a good earnings report. And both Zillow and Zillow Group, and up 10% on 200% increase in volume. Allison, we looked at. Beamer, we looked at. Kratos Defense, and we looked at LYFT and Tower Semiconductor. So that's look there. Let's take a look what our ETFs are doing in the financials. Financials are trying to come back here. Communications, Google, and Meta Facebook are in this. It looks like a slight gap up 1% today. Energy, got a pullback. Oil prices are coming back down today. Utilities, got a small move up in utilities. Real estate, fill in the gap as the yield on the treasury bonds comes down. Here we got biotech. We got a nice bounce there off of the 10 and 20-day moving averages. That's what you like to see. The other biotech ETF hasn't really performed as well, but it has filled the gap, bouncing off the 50-day moving average. Software, trying to fill the gap here from yesterday. Technology, not quite as bouncing as much as software. Infrastructure has definitely filled the gap. Let's see if it can continue up. Semiconductors up slightly, up 1.5% today. Airlines are up. Going back to semiconductors, AMD fought back pretty strong yesterday on a down day. And if you look at this, it's really got some really tight action from a price action. Got a lot of buying interest right here, a lot of blue bars here. This is what you like to see. Against the S&P 500, it's got a relative strength of 96. Earnings were up 12%, 28% earnings surprise. Let's continue with our ETFs out of the office. Gap down has filled up most of the gap from yesterday. It's up 1.35%. Industrials, huge bounce from yesterday. Everybody is looking at this yesterday as a buying opportunity. Consumer staples continues down. Building materials, Home Depot, Lowe's, got a little bit of a bounce today. Metals and mining, they still haven't gotten close to that gap that they dropped down 2 days ago. Home builders filling the gap. Let's look at our Fang Yu. Got a nice move up, and we showed this on the weekend. How Fang Yu was leaps above, outperforming S&P 500, NASDAQ, all the other indexes. So let's stop the share here. Share the screen. I need to find out which screen it is, and there it is. Here we go. So this is my Roth IRA. I haven't really shown this before, but this is Bitfarms, Bitcoin miner. Today it's up about 14%, 13% profit. Price is up a little over $1,000. This is a Bitcoin ETF. We decided to put it in. It's up 20% up, a little over 4% today. This is the one we kept from 2020. We sold out most of our Bitcoin at the time in Greystone Investments. And this one is up 52%. Just imagine if I would have kept all of that one. But I decided to get out after it was like 12 to 15% down. LYFT is lifting up this. It's up 33% on the day. We had bought it a little higher than the low yesterday, so but it's still up 21%. We're going to continue to hold. So that's where things look there. And I promised I'd look at some Bitcoin miners today. We just looked at Bitfarms. Let's take a look at the chart here. Got a gap up here, and it pulls back right in line here, moves up, and then it moves up again, pulls back a little bit yesterday in the sell-off on Bitcoin, on people taking some profits, and then a big gap up today. So we bought this at 302, and it pulled back down to 190, and we just kept holding because our belief was Bitcoin was going to move up, and sure enough, it has. I think this is the one that has been moving the most. Up a little over 11% today. Clean Spark. 2020, I bought this for $1. When it went up to $12, I thought, wow, that's incredible. And then it went up all the way up to 40. So and then when Bitcoin sold off, it really had a big hard sell-off. I guess it doesn't go back that far. You have to really look on the monthly chart. Really, at one point it was $151. Came all the way down. I believe this is where I bought it, right around $1. Um, yeah, came up to 40 here, sold off again, and now it's really taken off. I'm not sure what happened the other day, but Cypher had been biggest mover, and it isn't keeping up with the tide for some reason. It's only up a little over 7% today, and it's pulling back. Bit Digital up a little over 7% today, and it looks like it's trying to pull back from the 50-day moving average. Mara Digital, big gap up, trying to keep up with CleanSpark. I couldn't quite remember all of them. Let's see. For some reason, my computer shut everything down and I did not save the Bitcoin items. So let me go back here. This is a company that I'm most concerned about possibly going on a business when they have the halving, but it is up nearly 18% today. That is pretty amazing. Didn't quite make a double bottom, but look at all these blue bars. Somebody's buying here. I guess they're going on the cheap. ARK has a Bitcoin fund as well. Let me just see if I can pull that up. I'm just going to stop our share. So we'll continue looking at these. Here's the ARK funds, ARK B. And I guess they have some of it in here. This is fun to hedge your Bitcoin. It just continues to go down as Bitcoin kind of surges. There's another Galaxy Bitcoin. And here's Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. Here I talked about MicroStrategy when it was actually first at 483 about it went up to 520 and pulled back to 500. I closed it and then on earnings went down to 485 and then popped back to 493. I bought 10 shares and then I bought two options. One option spread 495 to 510, which I closed the next morning. And I kept the other 495 option, naked option call, and exercised it at 495 when it was at like about 650, and it just continues going up. They were selling at a 30% discount for the amount of Bitcoin they have. It's an interesting ticker symbol. Valkyrie Bitcoin. Easy Bitcoin by Franklin Investments. Schwab has a crypto. Crypto thematic. Can see all these big companies that have started these funds. This is why I just think it's going to continue moving up. Total Van Eck Bitcoin Trust. ProShares Bitcoin and Ethereum. There's another that has both of the top cryptos in here. Guess this one isn't showing up. So that's just kind of a look at all the Bitcoin ETFs that's currently out there right now. I'm just going to double check if why that one didn't come up. We'll just have to check on that later. But that's kind of a look at all the Bitcoin. And I wanted a little educational topic on buying on pullbacks. This is how you can really just focus on, if you focus on maybe 4 or 5 main stocks, it's easier to really educate yourself on what they do. I'm gonna, let's see, I'm gonna pull up Kava. So this is Kava, Mediterranean Grill. Right over here, they had an IPO base, broke out around 42. And this is where I alerted everybody that could get in. And then JP Morgan agreed with me 2 days later, and then it shot up to 48 and then 58 up here and then pulled back to 52. I suggested everybody get out at 52. And then it pulled back to 29. When it got up to 32, I suggested that that was a good time to buy. So it's right around in this area, 32, had a little bit of a pullback here, went up, and actually, no, it was right over here. It's where I suggested to buy. Had a pullback, nervous about somebody having a drive-through salad, and I added 600 more shares right here. And then it moved up, had a little bit of a pullback. You could add right here on the 20-day moving average, any move above it. That's what happened. Moved up, pulled back here. Right here, I sold 600 shares. And then right over here, I sold another 1,000. But when it moved up back to 46, I bought 500 shares and then put in an option for another 1,000. So I still have that option open at 46 when it's at 54.40. I like to use the options to buy in pullbacks. See, it's just riding the 10-day moving average right here, right now. it is getting a little extended from the 50-day. So when the earnings happen in 13 days, it could be possible that has a bit of a pullback if it doesn't really blow people away. And even if it does, it could sell off. Take a look at ELF. This is another example. See how it's just riding along the 50-day moving average right here. So William O'Neill, this is from his company, had a long history of how professional money managers will buy at the 50-day moving average to support it. So ELF, you see, came down here, did not get support there, had a consolidation over here, but then it broke out right here. This would be a great time to buy. On my show, when it got to 120, right about this area, I said I'm putting in options at 120, put in 4 options at 120, and it kept moving. Went up to 150. This is another area right here at the 20-day moving average. Once again, when it's a bounce, you could buy. Went up to 164, had a pullback to 155. So I bought the 2 of the $160 options. Pull back to a little further. Right here, I bought the 155 and it bounced back. I exercised those $155 options and went right on the day of earnings when it pulled up to 174. I sold the $260 options for a $4,000 profit. After hours, about 100 shares of the 167, which I still currently hold. And I got a little excited about 50 at the 177, which I sold the next day on the big pullback. So right now it's kind of holding and pulling back to the 20-day moving average. If there's any bounce, I may buy another 1 or 2 options on this and just kind of see how it goes. So let me show one of my other core holding, Zscaler. I had missed out on CrowdStrike. Zscaler is right in line with CrowdStrike. So right over here about the 177 options. As it continued up, I exercised those options. And then it just keeps moving up right around here. I sold 100 shares of the 200 that I owned. Then I had a real strong pullback. I believe it was at 228. I bought 2 options at 230. I sold one of them when it bounced. It was right here. And when it bounced all the way back up here, I sold one of the options, still hold it. And then it pulled back yesterday. I bought the $250 option, just one of those. And it is bouncing today. We'll just see how long we want to hold it. This is just for a quick trade. And that's kind of how we work on pullbacks. Once again, any pullback on low volume, it's got relatively low volume on this pullback over here, means that professional money managers aren't selling. They may be nibbling, buying, getting a better price as it pulls up here. Any selling on high volume, that's when you want to get nervous. So that's kind of the story there. Let's take a look at GitLab, how it's performing. GitLab said I had a gut feeling something was going to happen on earnings, about a $55 option, went up about 30%, and pulled back a little bit here. Could have added, just decided not to at the moment. IoT, Samara, it's filling the gap. Did the same with Samara, had a gut feeling on earnings, bought some options over here, gapped up about 30%, bounced back here, and right around this area, I kind of got tired of it, so I sold it with nice 30% profit. So that's my information on pullbacks. As you can see, as Samara is pulling back, volume is pretty light compared to their volume on earnings. Just see if they can start to pick up some more blue bars here and see if we want to get back into it. But that's our show for today. This has been Mornings with Michael for information and educational purposes only. Remember to go out and do your own due diligence. If you have any questions on your financial goals or activities, feel free to send us a comment, and keep going out there and working on your goals and your activities, and keep amazing all those around you. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. And I hope you have a great rest of the week, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow.